HBO's Watchmen was one of the most disappointing things I watched this year. Now you might be saying, what are you talking about? That was released in 2019. It is 4 years later. Well, the thing is, 4 years ago, I didn't really care that much about Watchmen, at all. I saw maybe a couple of videos covering the show back when it released, but they didn't really make me want to watch the show, at all. What got me to check out the series was me picking up the Zack Snyder adaptation at a thrift store. Now, I had heard mixed things about this, that it was either decent or pretty bad, and I thought it was pretty alright. After I finished the movie, I thought, maybe I'll check out the show. Maybe I missed out on something. And here I am after sitting through 8 hours and 47 minutes of the most middling television show I've seen in quite a while. Anyways, let's start with... This movie is too damn long. Well, actually, I wouldn't say that the length of the movie itself is the problem. It's more so how Zack paces the movie. Now, I haven't seen a single other Zack Snyder movie other than this, so I don't have that much to go off of. But one thing I will absolutely give the movie is how good it looks. Like, some of these shots almost made me want to watch his other filmography.
We live in a society.
Almost. Now, to me, Watchmen probably means something completely different to other people. What I got out of the movie is, should you compromise your values and your morality for the greater good? And I think what showcases this best is this scene.
Oh, it's not us.
Don't worry, it's not you.
But actually, I think that the last scene in this movie was probably the best one I've seen in any comic book movie. So when Rorschach finds out who killed the comedian and why, and I'm pretty sure we all know who did, why, all that. But for those who don't, Veidt killed the comedian because he knew too much. What got him killed was knowing Veidt's plan to blow up part of New York City to end the Cold War. So Veidt kills him, Rorschach investigates it, he finds out what they're planning on doing, and when he plans on going public with the information that he's written down, he doesn't compromise, even in the face of Armageddon.
He said it! He said it!
And something about that really resonates with me, because sometimes we will bend our morality to whoever has the higher power, but seeing him go out against unwinnable odds was just really powerful to me. At least that's what I thought. I have a history of missing the point of stuff like this. But I think that's also the beauty of any Watchmen adaptation, that you can get whatever meaning makes sense to you. Kind of like a Rorschach test.
Jesus Christ, Henry! Why the hell didn't we get a loss detection?
Anyways, let's move on to the thing that the show follows up on, which is also called... I have not read it yet, but I did the bare minimum of research, so I cannot wait to talk about episode 6. But we will get there when we get there. Also, because I haven't read Watchmen, I'm judging the show based off its own merits. Anyways, let's move on to
Bleach.
This episode opens up on the Tulsa riots of 1921. Now, I know what you might be saying. What do the Tulsa riots have to do with Watchmen? That answer would be jack shit. However, this is mainly used to set up Will Reeves, who will come back later. Will is handed a piece of paper that'll come back later. His parents then put him into someone else's car so that he'll be safe. You know what this intro reminds me of? The Last of Us.
Sir, there's a little girl. But... Yes, sir.
Anyways, Will is knocked out from an explosion. Then the car falls off the road for some reason. and then he picks up the baby that was on the car. We then cut to present day, where we see some guy with a cabbage truck, who is then pulled over by a policeman in a mask. The policeman is suspicious of this cabbage farmer, and then he needs to get permission to unlock his gun. After he gets his gun, this happens. The Cabbage Man is then revealed to be part of the Ku Klux Klan. Oh, sorry, I mean the 7th Cavalry, with a K. After this, the shooting is reported to the chief of police, who was watching Oklahoma, of all things.
Is that a song?
And then it turns out that the police officer made it out of that. Somehow. We then learn from Looking Glass that this has been the only shooting of a police officer in 3 years from the 7th Cavalry. After that, we get to meet Angela Abar, our main character. Now, her actress, Regina King, is pretty good, just not really in this show. She's kind of like Anne.
Excuse me?
Anne. You know, she's the girl I'm kind of hanging out with.
Excuse me?
That's her right over there.
And I more so mean it in that she's just kind of there. Like, she just kind of sounds like she's phoning it in most of the time. Like, I wouldn't blame her if that was the case. I wouldn't want to put any effort into HBO's Watchmen either. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, Red Predations are introduced. They're basically just reparations. Some little fat kid brings up Red Predations, and then Angela's son attacks him. On the ride home, Angela and Topher, which is her son, are then stopped by a squid storm. I wonder who's causing that. We then arrive at Angela's house, and would you look at that, there's virtually no squids, even on the roof. Angela then has to head out because of the cavalry. Angela then runs past an old man who is the kid from the beginning. Then she gets suited up and heads to where she was called. And then she heads up to where the supposed cavalry members are. When Angela gets there, she breaks into a seemingly random home, kidnaps its occupant, and then puts him in the back of her trunk. She then goes into the police chief's office and then tells him that she kidnapped a supposed 7th Cavalry member.
How do you know he's 7K?
I got a nose for white supremacy and he smells like bleach.
Mirror Man then takes the kidnapped hillbilly into the pod, which is just a lie detector test. And after confirming that he's a 7th Cavalry member, she then beats him up to get their hideout location, which is on a farm. Also, the 7th K are collecting watch batteries, which isn't paid off until the last couple of episodes. The 7th K people then start fighting them, and then Angela chases down the last 2 that haven't run yet. The one that Angela took down takes a cyanide pill, and now he's dead. The other guy then gets into a plane, and then Crawford, he kills him, and then he falls out of the sky because the plane hit him. After he's brought down, he is miraculously alive. Then we get a transition to Vite's subplot. He is at a castle with servants, and they're celebrating an anniversary, and that's about it. We then see Crawford run over a spike strip, and then we see a flashing light. We then cut to Angela, who gets a phone call of someone outing her identity, and then they tell her to go somewhere. When she gets there, Crawford is dead and hanging from a tree. We then see the person who supposedly hung him from the tree. It's the guy from the beginning. Again. And that is it for episode 1. I can't believe there's still 8 more episodes to go.
That he won't keep, but it's summer and we're running out of ice.
I'm coming.
This episode opens up in World War I, where we find out what that piece of paper that Will has finally said. It is from a German commandant and is trying to influence young African American troops in hopes that they'll join the German side. And then we jump back to present day where Judd is still hanging from the tree. And then Angela takes Will to her bakery.
Who are you?
I'm the one who strung your chief of police up.
Dylan, I'm going to eat the whole thing.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
You're 90 fucking years old.
So from this, we learn that his name is Will, and then he gives Angela a thing of pills, which will be important for later. Then she gets a call about Judd, and then she bags his coffee mug that he's been drinking out of for DNA testing. While at the crime scene, Angela gets investigated by Looking Glass.
We need to get him down.
After we learn he was alive during the hanging, we cut back to Christmas Eve of 2016, or the White Night, where we see Angela and her husband being attacked by 7th Cavalry gunmen.
It's crazy. What am I doing? Using a hammer to try to...
Are you crazy?
Are you blue?
Only in color, Michael. Only in color.
After Angela is knocked out by one of them, she is brought to the hospital and sees Judd at her bedside. And Judd explains that most of the force is quitting because the 7th K have all their names and addresses, which is why the policemen wear masks in this universe. So Dr. Gravity from Kick-Ass 2 thinks that the 7th K is responsible for Judd's murder. Now, the reason why Angela hasn't turned in Will yet is never explained, and I'm not sure why she doesn't, because he killed what is basically her children's uncle, but now he's a bad guy, I guess. So they head over to Nixonville, and they threaten people by saying they're going to tear down the statue if they don't give up the killer. I actually do like how they made Angela feel conflicted about this whole thing, because she knows they haven't really done anything yet. So after they remove people from their houses, Angela goes over to a cultural heritage place so that she can run the DNA from the cup that she took earlier. This place is also where you test your DNA to see if you apply for Redfordations. Or should I say...
Hold your government hand out!
Could have just kept calling them welfare benefits.
After that, Angela heads to her house and then sees her children for a bit, and informs them that poor Judd is dead. Then later that night, Angela has to leave, and then we catch a sneak glimpse of American Hero Story. We will get there when we get to episode 6, believe you me. So Angela drives up to Judd's house for the wake, and then looks at the Klansman's hood behind his closet. She then takes this hood and leaves. Then we cut back to Veidt, who is putting on a play of Dr. Manhattan's origin. That is the extent of his importance in this episode. Angela returns to Will and sees that he's gotten out of his handcuffs. Angela then shows him Judd's Klan robe, and then prepares to arrest him finally. And then she learns from an automated phone call from the DNA place that Will is her grandfather. Then after she puts him inside of her car, he gets lifted away by a big aircraft. And that is how the episode ends. Now we get to the Lori episode. This episode features Lori as the kind of main character. And the thing about her in the show is I don't mind it on paper. Like, having Lori back and being kind of a cynical asshole, works well. But again, that's on paper. Because they made one change that just pisses me off. And we will get there at the very end of this. Anyway, so the episode starts off with Lori going into a Manhattan booth and calling Dr. Manhattan. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention a couple things. Dr. Manhattan is technically on Mars. It's basically just a clone after he, quote,
I'm leaving this galaxy for one less complicated.
I wonder where he is. I sure do hope he isn't just magically with the main character of the show. That would be crazy. So Laurie sets up a joke about a bricklayer teaching his daughter how to lay bricks, and then they toss up the brick into the air. I know it sounds stupid, but it'll come back later, so it's important. We then cut to Laurie going into a national bank and pretending to rob it so that she can bring out a vigilante named Mr. Shadow. She then shoots him after he tries to run away because vigilantism is illegal. And then as she's arresting him, she says,
He's not a hero.
It's a fucking joke.
How you fucking pig?
on paper, I like that. Because in the book, she didn't want to be a vigilante. Her mom made her. Great idea on paper. In execution, it's a little cynical for my taste. Again, good idea on paper. I will give them that. Anyways, after that, Laurie has an owl and a case. The owl is kinda cute. I will get into that at the end of this. So she's invited to go down to Tulsa to lead an investigation on Judd's murder. Also, this scene adds in something else that I'll get into later. Oh yeah, and then Laurie tells a joke about three guys trying to get into heaven. The first guy, representing Night Owl 2, gets sent to hell for not being violent enough. In the next scene, we're shown Agent Dale Petey. He is important for later. A little bit later, we continue the joke about the three people being sent to hell. The second one, representing Ozymandias, gets sent to hell for being too violent. A little later, she talks to best character in the show. They don't really talk about much. Then she continues the joke with the third person representing Dr. Manhattan, and he gets sent to hell. Then we cut to Judd's funeral, where a 7th Cavalry member has come out of a crypt with a bomb vest and threatens to blow everyone up if he doesn't get Keen. The thing about the vest is that it's a dead man switch, where if he dies, then the bomb goes off. Now what does Laurie do when put into this highly dangerous...
Do not attempt to fall.
And now the bomb vest will surely go off anytime soon. Then after that riveting scene, we get another Ozymandias scene. He's making a spacesuit. It doesn't work. He needs to make another one. And then this is where we actually learn that he is Ozymandias. And then we come to the aftermath of the cemetery scene, where we learn that Laurie was planning on digging up Judd's body to find out what actually happened. And then she points out that they found wheelchair tracks near his murder scene.
I eat good guys for breakfast. My fingers like licking a battery. Oh.
And then Laurie finishes her joke from earlier, where she says that the bricklayer's daughter from earlier died, and then the brick that she threw up hits God in the head and kills him. Petey and Laurie go to a motel, and then she takes out a glowing blue vibrator. Now this came from Dan, because Laurie apparently is still hung up on Dr. Manhattan. And then she has sex with Petey. We will get there at the end of this, I promise. We cut back to Laurie at the Manhattan booth where she hangs up telling him that he never had a sense of humor. Then she walks out, and then Angela's car comes crashing down from above. And then Laurie, thinking it's a sign for Manhattan, starts busting out laughing. And then the episode ends. Now it's time to get into my rant territory. So, before the show starts, it's stated that Laurie and Dan got caught doing vigilante stuff. Laurie got out of going to prison by joining the FBI. Dan didn't want to. Dan also says that he knows that Laurie is still hung up on Manhattan. So he made the giant blue dildo that we see earlier. Now at this point in time, I have finished the original comic. I do not think Laurie is still hung up on Manhattan. I don't think Laurie would change her last name to Blake, because she fucking hated the comedian. I like the idea of her being a cynical asshole, because Dan is still in prison, and she wants to get him out. Which is what was stated earlier, is that if Keene could become president, then he could pardon Dan. I like that idea. It's nice. I like the owl. It's nice. I don't like her still being hung up on Manhattan because at this point it has been almost 30 years after the original Watchmen. I don't think Lori would still be attached to that man. Anyways, rant over. Now I get to go on to Don't Mind If I Do.
This is 1,000 monkeys working at 1,000 typewriters. Soon, they'll have written the greatest novel known to man. Let's see. It was the best of times. It was the
Bleach.
best of times. You stupid monkey!
7K.
I got a nose for white supremacy, and he smells like bleach.